A month after the presidential election, Democrats are still asking what happened. Here in the Bronx, Trump lost, but had far higher margins than in 2020, a trend that echoed across the city. In exclusive interviews, local Bronx Democratic officials shared their perspectives on the election outcome.
I interpret the outcome of the election not as an affirmation of Donald Trump, but as a rejection of a status quo that had come to be marked by inflation and the migrant crisis.
Inflation is a major issue in New York. You know, the prices of gas, milk, bread, food has increased dramatically.
I think we focus on an issue that's obviously important to us as Democrats, on the issue of abortion. I can tell you that amongst the Latino community, the top 10, it's probably number 8.
State Senator Luis Sepulveda said he thinks voters' top 5 issues are housing, healthcare, groceries, economic development, and jobs.
What the President Biden and all that he did in the economy, I think he did great things. I think the CHIPS Act, I think there's a lot of economic revitalization happening. Unfortunately, some of that is not being felt.
Many Democrats agree that going forward, messaging needs to change.
We weren't discussing the important issues like, again, economic development, jobs, housing, healthcare, and it cost us. And we're going to have to start talking about those issues to this community if we want to bring them back to the Democratic Party.
State Senator Gustavo Rivera also doesn't want Democrats to vilify trans kids or undocumented immigrants in response to the election outcome.
The people that are actually making life worse are not trans kids, are not undocumented people or new migrants. It's the ultra wealthy, it is big corporations, it is those. That's the place where our focus should be.
Dr. John Mollenkopf, director of the CUNY Graduate School's Center for Urban Research, agrees that Democrats need to shift focus.
I think the Democrats have to reach out more effectively to immigrant origin communities.
Dr. Mollenkopf also says that the Democrats' focus on Donald Trump as a threat to democracy was important, but ineffective at attracting voters. Unity Democrats, a North Bronx Democratic club, agrees that a working-class message could have been more effective.
One thing that Democrats could have done better is stress, like a working class message. How you can improve wages, jobs, things that working class people are struggling with.
Members of the party are also pointing to a lack of organizing efforts as a reason for losing voters.
That the local party, certainly the state party, doesn't do this either. They don't spend real resources in actually building with voters, on actually expanding the electorate and actually engaging civically with people in between elections. It's a re-election club.
Most of the relationships that we developed were through the Democratic Party from the Bronx. We did have some discussions with some people that were working the national party, but the national campaign, but not enough to my liking. I wish there had been much more of that.
But the Unity Democrats think the party did well with campaigning and bringing groups together. It's elected officials, they say, who have to work on engaging communities even when they're not on the ballot.
In my vision of the way any elected official has to hold office, they need to take on some sort of initiative to engage new voters as a genuine part of whether or not they are going to be reelected.
Democrats say they're preparing to respond to the initiatives of a second Trump term.
Again, I represent a low-income community, and so many of my constituents, they depend on programs that the federal government may provide. We're keeping a close eye, in terms of the city level, as to what we may lose financially from the federal government and how we as a city government may have to fill in those gaps.
There's also the issue of immigration.
We're going to continue to provide legal services to our immigrants. We're going to continue to visit our immigrant community to let them know that they're not alone.
And although Republicans will control all branches of federal government come January, Representative Torres believes Democrats can still take action.
We, on the Democratic side, are playing defense, and our main mission is to protect the American people from the extremes and excesses of a Trump presidency.
There's also a sense of hope that this election will be an opportunity for the party.
I would like to think that there is kind of a reckoning that this election did onto the core of the party to really take a time and calibrate and think of, effectiveness.
Most of the elected officials we spoke to won their district and outperformed Vice President Harris. For the Mott Haven Herald, This is Usha Sookai.